NUMSA is about to brief the media on the bus drivers' strike. Now, NUMSA is the only union that has not signed the wage agreement. Let's cross live there.
And therefore, we want to be on record that whilst we sympathize with the public, which has been a victim of this strike, we take a view that employers must take full responsibility for having inconvenienced our people. And we stand by our people, but at the same time, we know that our people know that workers' rights are human rights too. And we have been forced into this position of being where we are between the rock and the hard place. I mean, workers have demands, are very simple demands. The workers demanded a double-digit increase. Workers have been, for years now, have been making a call that if I am driving a bus from Johannesburg, we are two drivers, to Cape Town for 18 hours, I should be paid for being in that bus. There are painful experiences here where these workers get paid only 8 hours, as if you are not sitting in this bus, you are a prisoner of the bus. And if you get injured in this bus, we've got a worker who's still in hospital, which employers are basically refusing to take care of that worker on the basis that no, if you're sleeping and you get injured in that bus, you're not regarded as that being an injury on duty. And we find this as extremely arrogant. Even during the dark days of apartheid, buses used to have two drivers, and those drivers used to be paid in full. And our members are very clear that they deserve to be paid. This thing of them that you are in a bus, you are not going to be paid, is completely not acceptable. Not only that, these employers would not pay workers double time on a public holiday. You're working on a public holiday, you get paid as if you're working on Monday. You're working on Sunday. In terms of the basic condition of employment, you're supposed to be paid time and a half. They pay you as if you're working on Monday. This morning, we met with the Minister of Labour. We met in some changing conditions in that 3 unions that have been with us, they decided to unilaterally sign the agreements, SADAW, DOW, and DAUSA. These unions signed. We want to be on record that as far as we are concerned, NUMSA's strike continues. And obviously, there are changed conditions now because this is going to create serious problems. But we must be on record. We are a union that is a worker control union. We take mandates only from our members. We don't meet with government and business and make deals and sign. And therefore, we are saying, look, the strike continues because that's a mandate our members have given to us. And that strike is a legal protected strike. We reject with contempt it deserves the notorious secretary of the bargaining council who circulated a memo suggesting that the strike is over on the basis that 3 unions would have signed. Those unions cannot sign on behalf of NUMSA. NUMSA is in a strike, and we will report back tomorrow to our members all over the country. It is only our members, after they have reflected to this development that three unions have signed, who will say to us, we support that the strike must continue, or we support that the strike must end. We don't have those powers. So the minister, if also is communicating a message that says the strike is over because the majority of the unions have signed, we reject that with contempt it deserves. There's no such. We are in a legal protected strike. Not unless the minister would have actually taken that agreement and extend it to everybody else. She has not done that. This strike is a legal protected strike. No confusion should be spread. We will go and report back to our members. And tomorrow, after our members have given us a mandate, we will come to the public because we believe that a union that is worker control is not going to be in the process. Suddenly you are in a strike, you wake up tomorrow, suddenly because the minister or business come closer to us and say, look, we think we can make a deal. We reject that. We are accountable only to our members. And government is also have got a responsibility here. We're saying, I mean, these are the basic condition of employment. Government should be policing all these buses to make sure that they pay double time on public holiday. They should be paying workers time and a half on Sunday. That's the responsibility of the Department of Labor to ensure that there's compliance. And we made that point very clear to the minister that she must move swiftly and act and make sure that there's compliance in this sector. The second thing that the public deserve, which fall in the doorstep of government, is the whole question of safe public transport. In other words, these workers are not supposed to be workers who are basically being abused, exploited by employers, and suddenly government has no role to provide safe public transport. It's a duty of government to provide public transport, to make sure that workers are paid a living wage, to make sure that these workers are treated like any other worker, so that the safety of the very same commuters of the public is taken care of. Obviously, we, as I said at the beginning, as a union, we are extremely worried that we had to embark on this strike to inconvenience our people. We feel for them, we're in solidarity with them, but we know that as progressive communities, they stand together, they understand the plight that is faced by these workers who are exploited by greedy owners of these bus companies. And I think that would clarify what NUMSA stance is in relation to the current strike. But we can take questions.
My name is Malu Giamboi from ENCA. At what point is NUMSA or NUMSA members prepared to go back to work? That's my first question. The second question is, can the workers really afford to continue striking? Because we know the rule of no work, no pay does apply here. Thank you.
Well, I think a strike is not a dinner party. A strike is a sacrifice. When workers decide that they will tool down, they don't do that because they want to punish themselves. They take a strike as a last resort. This is what these workers have done. They have decided to say enough is enough. We did everything to try to pursue the bosses. On the eve of the strike, we phoned these employers to say we're even willing to meet so that the strike must be avoided because it is communities that are going to be affected. It is our members who are going to lose wages because the principle of no work, no pay applies. As things stand, our members are willing to continue striking. They're willing to continue to sacrifice to make sure that they can be able to improve their conditions and benefits, and the issues I'm raising are addressed. And as I said, we will go back to them now because they were in the middle of the strike. They were not alone in the strike. They were with other fellow workers. In solidarity, they stand to benefit with others. To the extent that there are those who now back because their unions have signed, we're not even sure whether these unions have signed having consulted their members. We're not sure about this. But the reality, that's the case we are confronted, that's the situation we're confronted with, which forces us to go back to consult our members in general meetings. And I say, no propaganda, no intimidation. Our members must attend their meetings tomorrow. They are in a legal protected strike. It was announced. They did everything else that needed to be done. We complied with the provision of that agreement. There's no such a thing that 3 unions, because they suddenly, as a union, as a result, as NUMSA were the second majority in this particular sector. So we can't, our members, be intimidated by cheap propaganda that 3 unions have signed. They can sign as much as they like. The bottom line, we represent the interests of our members. Our members will go to a general meeting tomorrow to be addressed, and they will reflect whether they want to continue with the strike or they think that they must actually take what is on the table now. And we will, after we've received that, we'll be able to communicate. I think I've handled both questions.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yes?
Earlier this morning, we heard that some workers or unions signed at a plant level. I just want to get your thoughts on that. Whether have any of your members perhaps signed at a plant level? And how do you feel really about that?
Well,
the members signing at a plant level and the central bargaining forum.
NUMSA is new in this sector. One of the things that we are going to do is to train workers to understand that the contradiction between labor and capital is a fundamental contradiction. The bosses, they take their labor surplus value that they produce, they pay them peanuts. And these peanuts that they pay them determines where workers stay, determine where they will take their own children. And therefore, the relationship we have between our members and the employers is a working relationship. It is only through negotiations. And to the extent that we're a structured union, we are negotiating at a centralized bargaining. No shop steward at a plant level has got a right to sign an agreement when we would have coordinated a strike nationally. There has been an attempt at autopex by employers to push that shop steward must sign. What was there is a draft agreement, is not signed. It will be part of consultation tomorrow, which we'll present it to our members. Where there was a grey hunt, where there was an attempt and our members were pulled together with these unions and say you must sign, as a union we intervene and the company agreed that NUMSA is not part of that particular agreement. So as things stand, employers tried all cheap tactics. Yesterday, they forgot that we called them and we said, listen, the strike will be real. They thought that we were playing. Suddenly, they had money, that is a lot of money that was available now. No, come back to work, take this money. I don't know, why do they think that workers can joke about their lives to the extent that of taking a strike? That's why we're saying we reject those cheap kind of tactics. In fact, they smell bus-cap mentality attitude that belong in the old order, where employers are bashing existing unions instead of recognizing the union and its leadership and negotiate. Suddenly they want to go behind new shop stewards who might not have experiences. We're very proud to say that we will go back to our members. It's only when we'll be able to communicate once our members have given us a mandate. And this principle of worker control in the labor movement in this country, we're saying it must be defended, it must be protected. Without that, workers are on their own, because you would have leaders of union without consulting, just signing agreement. And NUMSA had to be dismissed in COSATU for maintaining these particular principles. That's what we will continue to do.
You mentioned that NUMSA is the second majority union. So if the members of NUMSA do not agree on what has been taken by the other unions, can NUMSA influence the decision for the strike to continue?
We're consulting tomorrow for two things: whether to continue with the strike, whether we should take what is on the table now. And if our members say 4 and 2, the strike will continue. If our members say, look, we think that we should settle, remember, we will also have to reflect with them, because there's going to be huge challenges. If other workers are going to work, other workers are not going to work. Our standpoint as a union all the time: united we stand, divided we fall. We don't want to have a situation where workers among themselves, but if the majority of our members and the majority of those members from other unions are saying there was confusion, we think that we still stand together, the strike will continue. Employers and that bargaining council secretary who suddenly has assumed powers that he does not have. A bargaining secretary's role is to simply to take minutes. We've got a strange bargaining secretary of the council who make offers between union and employers. Very spoiled chap. And we warn him. that from now onwards, this bargaining council is at the service of employers, is at the service of workers and their union. We don't want a manga bargaining council secretary who suddenly assume responsibility. Yesterday, when the minister wanted to intervene, when we phoned him to say, well, okay, he was telling us that, no, this government want to claim victories. And we warned him that, listen, you don't behave like this. This morning is busy sending memos to say the strike is over. He is going to plunge this industry into a crisis if he does not stop that.
Mr. Jim, one of the things the National Employers Association had said was that all the time when they were putting proposals on the table, those proposals would be rejected by the unions. Which proposals, what have you brought to the table that to the employer, which you seemingly you're not finding each other?
Well, I think the kind of offers that are on the table now are too many. They are offers. There were no offers. There was just arrogance. They were given 7%. They were not willing to move on anything. I mean, it's just that I'm not spending time on what we will present because we don't do that as a union. We go and report back to our members. When we come back, after our members have reflected, because we don't want to confuse them. And then, I mean, these bus companies, as individual bus companies, they've made separate offers now because they wanted to break the strike. But when we said, can they meet as a group of employers, negotiate with us, open books if there's a need, and be fair to workers, they were not willing to do so because I think they have become used to think that unions are weak, unions are cheap, they have no capacity, these workers will never strike. We're very proud with the heroic stance that these workers have taken. And I mean, they must wake up. We chose this particular period because right through during the year, we had a bus company sometime last year which basically took people from Zimbabwe to undermine the strike in South Africa. And this time around, we're growing. We're saying workers must join NUMSA in numbers. If they want to improve their lot, they must join NUMSA in numbers so that we must take up this battle. This industry is going to be transformed. This industry is going to take care of South African public. Workers will be paid living wage. They will be taken care of. We will do so by uniting all workers in this particular sector. We'll do so by unions that are still here to remain united and challenge the bosses and unite all workers, where unions are not just going to sign behind workers.
But is that a possibility? Will that really happen? Because already in the strike,
I think I can respond to you by saying that you can oppress all other classes. You can exploit them. There's one class that you can't oppress and exploit permanently. That class is the working class. This strike have demonstrated that workers, the working class one day will rise, and we are very clear that these workers are gaining their political confidence and their future is in their hands. Their future is on themselves uniting and make sure that they take these unions under their control. And any union that does not want to do that is not a union. A union must be a union that takes mandate from workers to consult, regardless of whatever pressures that we are confronted with.
Decided to deliberately down tools throughout this period, knowing that numerous or not even thousands of commuters would be stranded throughout this time.
It's a combination of both. Workers have been negotiating last year, trying to improve their plight. Employers, they don't care. We have started these negotiations. When did we start these negotiations? In January. For the whole year, the employers, they don't care. We get the boiling point close when we were about to go and pray. We also wanted to go to Easter, Amas was trying. But we couldn't because workers gave us a mandate to say, these employers are not listening, comply, don't rush, negotiate. We gave them a notice, we call this cool-off period for 30 days. And 30 days came, it passed. Having it passed, we gave them another 48 hours. They thought they didn't care, they didn't want to come to the table. I phoned them on the eve. I said, I'm willing to pull the whole NUMSA leadership. Let's not sleep. Let's negotiate for the whole night to avoid exactly the disaster that we have in the past few days. In fact, this fellow, this secretary of the bargaining council, was the one to say, no, everything must be done through the bargaining council. I don't know this power of a bargaining council over parties that it's supposed to administer its own minutes and everything else. And then we didn't stop that. We phoned employers director. I was in Golden Arrow. We met with them on the eve of the strike. They were still hardlining. So as I'm saying, the people who must really be blamed, who must take full responsibility for this, it is employers. They are irresponsible. They don't care for the people who basically bring money to themselves. I mean, if there's one thing that they should have done is to say to us, listen, we can't afford the strike. Let's sit down. It was us who were handing them because we knew that it is the working class, it is the majority, which is the majority that is using public transport that is going to be affected. But I can be clever. I'm not clever than workers. Once they decide in a sector that enough is enough, my role is to coordinate their views. My role is to provide leadership. And that's what we're doing right through. Okay, so you're now open about it. So you should have just said that. I think workers, they absolutely sympathize with their communities. I mean, the minister had an opportunity to engage not just with Jim, but with our shop stewards who are here. They shared with him their pain, how this decision was not taken light, and they even said, if, for instance, we were to settle in whatever way, what's going to happen between now and 2018? Because they have been having these problems. Employers do not care. The industry is not transformed. So, yes, I mean, the ball has been in the court of employers. Workers do not like the fact that they have to be in a strike first because they lost wages. Secondly, it is their brothers, sisters, and families who are basically affected by the strike. I'm done. I know when you're happy.
What is the percentage of NUMSA workers that make up the conglomerate?
You mean the total number?
Yeah.
In the sector?
Yeah.
What's the total number?
Well, 7,400.
7,400. But we're not just saying 7,000. We're saying all workers must join NUMSA.
Oh, okay.
Yes, what's wrong with that? It's a union that they control. It doesn't just sign.
Were you surprised that the other unions signed?
Well, I don't want to attack other unions. The bottom line is that, I mean, we have been having a big issue of worker control and so forth, but I think, you know, we must maintain solidarity even if it is painful. I wouldn't want to go for them. But I think it's terrible that we have to find ourselves in a situation where, I mean, there's a union that didn't even sign for strike action, but it is the first one to sign. It was not in the strike. Workers go on a strike, and it looks opportunistically, it goes and signs. Where have you seen something like that? Trade unions who go around with ministers of finance, speaking to rating agencies, they're ready to settle all the time. But I mean, I'm saying I'm not giving you details on that question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll issue you with a statement. What do we do? Okay, we'll send you the statement so that you have a context. I know you journalists sometimes.
Well, those were live proceedings.